Okay, little of it is. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Daytona. We're thrilled to be here. Mike Joy, Darrell Waltrip, Jeff Gordon, newly minted Hall. Clash is always, it's been the fastest of the fast and one of the most exciting events in all of Speed Weeks.
If I told you we're going to go to the first race of the year and it's called the Clash, what would you think? You'd be pretty excited, wouldn't you? Or you'd be pretty nervous?
I'd hear crash, and I wouldn't like that.
Jumping jack clash.
Oh, okay. Well, it could be that. But, you know, you get one chance, you get out there, you haven't done anything all winter, and like, okay, wow, let's go 200 miles an hour.
And 200 feels like 400 miles per hour. When you get out there in a draft with a big group, I don't know if we're going to see everybody out there drafting together. We might see some organizations getting together just to sort of get tuned up and get ready to go. But this, over the off season, it feels, when you get down here, the excitement, the adrenaline, but that first time you're on track, it feels like things are moving by you so fast. So there's an adjustment period. I can't wait to see who adjusts the quickest and doesn't clash.
In the Clash. All right, everybody, buckle up. We'll have cars on track when we come back as the stars of NASCAR get ready to roll around Daytona International Speedway.
Get used to it.
Out on the line, 11 of the 20 cars that will participate in the Clash. I see another 6 or 7 rolling out from the garage area.
Oh, smoky.
And a little puff of smoke.
You know what Junior Johnson said? Will you ever see a jet take off?
Well, we will shortly. But first, we're going to go next door to our race strategist and rules expert, Larry McReynolds.
Well, Mike, when I look in that garage area at the 20 drivers and teams that are in this race, think about 7 or 8 of them have new faces and new places. This is the first opportunity for a driver working with a new crew chief to maybe get the communication down, to start thinking about the lingo that you're going to start right here moving through 2019. But to me, the other big story, we know what the Ford Fusion had at restrictor plate. They've won the last 2 Clash. They've won 9 of the last 11. All of those 9 crew chiefs in this race, they're anxiously anticipating, Vince, what type of speed will we have with this new Ford Mustang?
That's exactly right, Larry. And, you know, you talked about the different crew chief driver combinations, and there are no more eyeballs on any combination than what's on this 48. After 17 years, 7 championships, 83 wins, it's not Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus any longer. Johnson working with Kevin Meendering, a first-time Cup crew chief. In fact, Meendering has been out of the Cup garage, been over in the Xfinity Series garage working with Elliott Sadler. But Meendering was last in the Cup garage in 2015 when he was the lead engineer for Dale Earnhardt Jr. That, by the way, was the year Jr. won the Daytona 500. So no pressure for Mindering. He says the standards are always high, always a little bit of extra pressure, but their expectations remain the same. Win the Daytona 500. Going to be fun to watch. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
Now, Vince, another intriguing storyline to follow this Speed Week's entire season long is the 11 and Denny Hamlin. Now, coming off his worst season ever, going winless in 2018, this team has been completely restocked with talent. Chris Gabehart and Eric Phillips, veterans of the NASCAR garage, coming on board as the crew chief and car chief. In fact, Denny told me he's had the most low-key offseason ever, preparing for 2019, looking at analytics, and mentally preparing himself for the upcoming season. He told me change has been good for him in the past. Darian Grubb, Mike Wheeler, he won within the first 2 races with those pairings. He's expecting nothing less than his association with Chris Gabehart. And by the way, 1 or 2 laps out on the track, then look for the Toyotas to pair up together. And by the way, for the 19th straight year, it's my honor to throw upstairs to my pals Mike Joy, DW, and Super G, Jeff Gordon. Fellas?
Thanks, Matt. The first 6 cars to roll out on the track did so single file and with a big separation between them. Now there's an 8-car train rolling off turn 4, coming back to the start-finish line, led by Joey Logano.
You know, Mike, I might call this analyst orientation, because all these cars look so much different, paint schemes, you know, with sponsors and everything else, than what we last saw them last year. So we got to kind of figure out who's in what car and what car is sponsor, and that's kind of fun for this practice as well.
Something here, Mike, that I didn't expect to see as we see Joey Logano, our reigning champion, leading this group, is the mix between different manufacturers. We have Fords and Chevys mixed in there, trying to get kind of reacquainted and get some drafting practice in here early.
I think a part of that might be, Mike, there's a little bit of a threat of rain, and they might think that they're not going to get a lot of practice, so you got to take advantage of whatever's out there on the track right now. And who's better to follow than Joey Logano? One of the best restrictor plate races we've had in this sport in a long time.
Ford, Chevy, Ford, and those Fords are Mustang bodied this year, as Larry pointed out. Fusions last year to the championship and the manufacturers championship for Ford. First time they'd won the drivers and manufacturers title in the same year since Dale Jarrett did it back in '99. Now the last car in line will have an advantage on the speed chart, and that was, well, Paul Menard, not quite the last in line, but he managed to suck up there on that lap.
Yeah, he was actually one of the cars further back and got a huge draft down the back straightaway. Went to the outside, only to find Jimmy Johnson there, who got shuffled out of line coming off of turn 4 as Austin Dillon went to the inside of Jimmy Johnson there to get behind the 22 of Joey Logano.
Pretty aggressive. I mean, already we see Keselowski kind of getting into the back of Dillon there a little bit, moving him around.
And Jeff, to your point during commercial, if you weren't at the Las Vegas test, this is your first time in a race car since when?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about November, right, at the final race in Homestead, and such a different type of race there. You weren't drafting, you weren't needing your spotter as much as you're needing here, or the use of the mirror. So to me, the first time I was ever on track in a big draft, it was an eye-opener, and it really got the adrenaline flowing, and you would leave this practice with your head spinning just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, you truly are nervous. You're not sure about your car. You're not sure about your setup. There's so many unknowns when you hit the racetrack in these cars. But you've got to do what these guys are doing. You got to get out there and draft, because that's the way you're going to race.
Now, way out ahead of this group, Daniel Suarez has just come off pit road in his new ride, the number 41 for Stewart Haas Racing. And the pack is about 20 car lengths behind them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see. You see that 180 miles per hour on Daniel Suarez. Sorry, now we're up at 192. Watch that pick up as this group catches him. They'll probably drag him down a little bit, but once he gets in this draft, those numbers are going to get much closer to 200 miles per hour when you get a big pack out there.
Yeah, I think Suarez is just waiting for the pack to get there. He's going to try to fall in somewhere, probably behind that 8 car if he can. Actually, it's a 3 car. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you talk about the 3 car, Darrell. I'm really anxious to see, coming from last year winning the Daytona 500, how much more confidence is going to come to Austin Dillon being able to be in the position that he was in to pull off that win, how much confidence does that bring to the class? That's what got him in to the class, was that win, the Daytona 500 a year ago. We're seeing him up front already in this practice, and I think that confidence is going to play out really well for him to get the weekend or the speed week started off right.
Well, Jeff, you know, every time we come down here, the engine guy will tell you we've got the most power we've ever had. And the car guys will tell you this is the best car we've ever had. And then they got to sell that. They got to make the driver believe that. Best engine, best car. Go out there and get in there and race with these guys.
All right, Martin Truex is the first car to go back to the garage. Kevin Harvick has pulled out. The pack should catch him. There's Harvick way out in front of the pack. Let's check with Vince.
Well, it's interesting you guys talking about the confidence of the three and its driver, Austin Dillon. Remember, Dillon's working with a new crew chief this year, too. Danny Stockman is the crew chief for Austin Dillon in that 3 car. He was also the crew chief for Dillon when he won the Truck Championship and when he won the Xfinity Championship. So you can believe that that combination together carries a lot of confidence into this new season in 2019. I talked to Danny before practice, and he said, we're going to draft with anybody and everybody in this practice. We got a lot to learn.
Yeah, Vince, I'd probably say, why did it take so long for him to get over to help me win a Cup championship? Because he's really been successful.
Watch the 3. What's he dragging?
Well, this is a little bit of the risk that you take of rolling off pit road. The first thing that you do is get into a big draft. There's higher speeds in the draft, and they don't exactly, these teams, don't get me wrong, they get it mapped out pretty good, but they don't know exactly how much travel these cars are going to go through, especially some of those bumps you saw down there 1 and 2.
Oh, man, 3 wide down here in the middle of 3 and 4, getting a little dicey. Yeah, it's probably the track bar mount, Mike. It hangs down pretty low in the back of the car there. They'll grind on that.
You know, guys, Kevin Harvick in that 4 car, they did a really nice job of leaving pit road and timing it where he could get with that pack, considering they had already been out there for a number of laps.
Tell you one thing, though, 21 car looks pretty fast. He drove right by those guys, took the lead here.
And Daniel Suarez, as the pack caught him, he got a little push, and he has the fastest time on the board.
Practically touching.
Jimmy Johnson has gone to the top of the chart with a lap of 196.67 miles per hour. Not the Jimmy Johnson that we were used to seeing in Daytona, who would only come out and make single car runs for a lot of years.
Yeah, we've traditionally talked a lot about Chad Knaus, when he was the crew chief of this 48 car, how they love to do single car runs and do almost some testing down here. And, you know, we're starting to see a new trend here starting in 2019, not just a different crew chief and Kevin Mendering, but also Jimmy Johnson just getting out there and getting after it in this draft to see what that 48 car can do.
And I'm sure Mendering's a lot like us. We always say, why do they do that? You know, don't they need to get out there and draft a little bit and see what the car's going to do in a draft? And if you're watching teams like, you know, what I call the blind obvious, you're down there, you're checking out, this is the way we're going to do it. You're Mendering, you're over saying, why are they doing it that way? We're not going to do it that way.
And why I think this is a smart thing to do here in the class practice is these cars we saw last year, they did not handle well.
No.
They really struggled. To see Joey Logano, nice push to his teammate, Brad Keselowski in that Miller Lite Ford. And look at it, such a great run that gave the 2 car of Keselowski when he got that push from his teammate. But the handling, to me, not just the speed of the car, but handling is so important this entire speed weeks. I think you need to be out there in this type of a draft to understand what your car is going to do.
You know why it's important? Look how many laps these guys run. I mean, they went out there already at 12 laps. They just keep running. I think handling is really critical.
All right, for more on our new defending series champ, here's Matt.
Mike, for many years, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the Pied Piper when it came to restrictor plate racing. Everyone would try to work with Jr., much like his father, Dale Sr., knowing he would be going to the front. One advantage Jr. had was TJ Majors, his spotter. A year ago, he moved over to the 22 of Logano. TJ told me he loves the aggressive nature of Joey's restrictor plate prowess and always trying to learn. He was out front about 5 laps ago. He went to the outside before commercial. You saw him drop all the way to the back. Now slowly migrating his way to the front, just learning, even though it's the same package as a year ago, still learning nuances here at Daytona.
I like what Dale Jr. said about restrictor plate racing. When you see an opening, go for it. Don't hesitate. See an opening, stick your nose in there and go for it. And that's the way that the 22 guys.
Oh, the 9 of Chase Elliott going for it right there, making it 3 wide.
I think Suarez and Logano almost got together. Something had to give there.
And going back to Joey Logano, if I had to pick a favorite coming in here to Speed Weeks, not just for the Clash, whoa, there's one of those aggressive moves by Joey Logano. But if you take the confidence coming off of the championship that this team accomplished last year, I think that if I had to pick one, to me the favorite, even though it's in a new car with this new Mustang, would be the 22 of Joey Logano.
Well, Team Penske is looking for their 3rd Clash win in a row. Brad Keselowski in the 2 won it last year, and Joey won it 2 years ago.
Yeah, and we just saw with Logano, I think what makes those 2 cars, the 2 and the 22, really, really successful. You saw how he changed lanes as quick as, as quick as you could go from one lane to the other, he was doing, and the car was stable. It didn't get out of control. He was under control. He made nice moves right there. That's what makes those guys so good, I think.
And I'll take it even a step further. Not only is he trying to see what his car can do, and he obviously has some confidence in that car and what he's doing, but you're trying to make a statement right now. You love to come down here, and the first time you're on track is to show your competitors you're the car, you're the driver to beat.
Well, these Ford guys particularly, because that's a new car. I mean, that's the Mustang. That's not the Taurus. And they got to show these guys, hey, this car is as good or better than what we had. And if it's better than what we had, you might be in big trouble.
Fords and Chevrolets, what you don't see on track right now are any of the Joe Gibbs Toyotas. They will be back out during this session, and we've been told from the garage that they will come out and work together. But Larry, they don't want to play well with others.
Yeah, what they did, Mike, they all four of the Joe Gibbs Toyota drivers, they went out there and ran about 3 or 4 laps by themselves. They just wanted to get the heights and everything right. But yeah, I told Barry Landis, our producer, I can almost promise you the next time we see them, they'll be out there probably as a group of 4.
And as an attaboy, Larry's son Brandon was fastest in his qualifying group, fastest in practice for the ARCA race later this afternoon on FS1. Christian Eckes from New York on the pole. Brandon McReynolds will start 11th. Welcome back to Clash Practice as the Joe Gibbs team gets ready to hit the track with their 4 Toyotas. Kyle Busch rolling out. Here is Kurt Busch, one of 17 of NASCAR's top 30 drivers have either new cars, new crew chiefs, maybe both, and one of those is Kurt Busch, who moves over to Chip Ganassi Racing and the #1 Chevrolet.
One of sorry, Darrell, one of the interesting aspects of this move that I am really going to be interested to see is who his lead engineer is. A guy named Jazzy. Now, we know from the past, Jazzy came from Furniture Row, right? Which was with Cole Pern and Martin Truex Jr. I think that's a great addition to this team that's really going to help them and Kurt Busch get up to speed right away over there at Ganassi Racing.
But you just remember something. Jamie McMurray in that one car was a strong contender every time we went to a restrictor plate race.
True.
So they've got a good car. Kurt is a savvy restrictor plate racer. I think he's going to do really well in that car.
So changes here also at Joe Gibbs Racing. We've talked about Denny Hamlin's new crew chief. Martin Truex Jr. takes over the 19 after his team, Barney Visser's Furniture Row Racing, out in Denver, Colorado, ceased operations at the end of last season. Truex, Cole Pern, and some of their crew members moved over to Joe Gibbs, and Martin behind the wheel of the number 19. They're first in line.
And I want to thank Joe Gibbs Racing and Martin Truex Jr. for keeping at least the colors about the same on this car, because we're going to have a tough time putting him in the 19. It's going to take a little while for us to get reacquainted with that and not being in the 78.
Yeah, and remember, what was it, a couple of years ago when the 11 car, I mean, just squeaked out the win, eked out the win right here to start finish line over that car of Martin Truex's. So see how they play together as teammates.
And Mike, I've said it many times, I don't think this is a big change for Martin Truex Jr. He's been like a teammate to these guys all along the way. To me, who really has to adapt to the change is the crew chief Cole Pern. Even though they've had the alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing, Cole has been out in Denver, Colorado. He could do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. Now he's under the roof of the mothership there in Huntersville, North Carolina. He's the one I think that has to adapt the most.
Yeah, certainly a different culture there than when he was out running a sometimes 2, sometimes 1 car operation in Colorado. There is Cole on the right of your screen.
But don't you know, Larry, that first meeting where all those crew chiefs and engineers got together at Joe Gibbs Racing, I guarantee you they were picking Cole Pern's brain quite a bit, wanting to see if they could get some of that information that maybe wasn't coming from Denver back to Huntersville.
He was sending information, just not all of it.
Yeah. I just like Barney Visser. I mean, you think about Barney. He was in this sport for a while, single car team from Denver, and he won a championship. I think that was his ultimate goal, was to win a championship. And once he did, I think he said enough's enough.
Well, I think of Barney much like Alan Kulwicki, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame with Jeff and Roger Penske and Jack Roush and Davey Allison last week in Charlotte. I think of Barney as the Alan Kulwicki of car owners. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to have the team near my business so I can go and have some fun with them and be involved in what they're doing. And let's see how big we can make this. And they went all the way to the title.
And, Mike, I love the way he did it in the final year, too, because they didn't back off. I mean, he almost doubled down on that final year to have the best team, the best cars, best driver, everything, combination. They bought one of their own OSS machines, you know, to get the car completely up to speed to go and compete at the highest level to try to go out on top, and they almost did it.
Yeah. I think Martin Truex was the beneficiary of all of that, because it resurrected his career.
And about time for Martin Truex.
Lap it all, or what's the plan here? Find out. Talking about 5 laps, and then we'll switch. All right.
Yeah, so they've got a plan. It's pretty obvious. I think Martin Truex Jr. was just trying to get the latest on the plan. I think the plan is him to lead. Then after 5 laps, you'll see him go to the high line, wave those other 3 by. Then he'll go to the tail. And they'll just probably keep doing that for about 15 to 20 laps.
Vince?
Well, and, you guys were talking about that group that you're looking at there, and there's the change of positions. They all want to get an idea what it feels like to be out front, what it feels like to be behind other cars, multiple cars in front of them, and that's certainly part of the learning process that these teams are going through in regards to the Clash, and more importantly, looking ahead to the Daytona 500. They also talk specifically, Denny Hamlin there in that 11, about the wind as they go into turn 3, feeling like it kind of pushes the car out a little bit. It's really gusting down here. It's something that several of the teams have been talking about.
Well, let me ask my two champions here in the booth. You know, one of my favorite sayings is Mark Twain's, "I never learned anything when I was talking." Did you ever learn anything when you were leading?
No, I don't know if I learned anything when I was in a 4-car draft either.
Okay.
I learned we need to work on a car.
Matt.
Mike, a great shot visually before we went back to the racetrack action was the spotters up on top of the spotter stand. Now, many times we'll go to a racetrack and a spotter may stand next to his best friend, may not be one of his corporate teammate cars, but here you can see, as you go down the line, you can see Rick Corelli, you know, Eric Jones spotter. You can see Tony Hirschman III, who is Kyle Busch's spotter. The Toyota guys all together to help speed up the hand signals and the comments back and forth, because things happen so quickly on the racetrack and especially up top on the stand.
Hand signals up on the spotter stand and in the cockpit. That's Kurt Busch. Flag, and we are racing at Daytona in the Clash. Oh, trouble, turn 4.
Hang on, baby.
They have been pushing and banging on each other. Trouble.
In the wall.
Wow. Wild and crazy action.
Wrecking right here, wrecking. Easy, easy.
That's an unbelievable save. This might be sweet redemption.
Wreck behind you, wreck behind you. Good job, guys.
Hell yeah.
That's the way it is in the Clash, and you will see it tomorrow after Daytona 500 pole position qualifying, noon Eastern time on Fox. Clash coverage begins 2 p.m. Eastern here on FS1. You can catch it all streaming live on the Fox Sports app. Here's the format for the Clash. 20 drivers, 18 of whom have practiced already today. 75-lap race, and NASCAR will waive the caution at lap 25 unless a caution occurs reasonably close to that. We said 18 of 20 drivers have been on track, all except Alex Bowman and the driver who's with Matt Yoakum.
And Mike, that would be Jamie McMurray. Now in 2 weeks, he'll be trading the Nomex for some worsted wool. I didn't say polyester. I appreciate that. He'll be wearing a suit in 2 weeks, joining our Fox broadcast team. Coming back to the 500 for you, it's extra special to close out your career here, but also with Lauren Ranier, your first spotter, and also the car number when you filled in for Sterling Marlin.
Yeah, it's a really special weekend for me. I was thankful that Lauren called and wanted to spot for me. It was awesome they were able to get the number 40 just for this race. The fact that I ran my first Cup race 17 or 18 years ago, filling in for Sterling with the number 40. So yeah, it's a super cool weekend. I talked to, you know, a lot of whether it's Jeff Gordon or Michael Waltrip or other guys in the garage that are currently driving, you know, about this weekend. It's such a different type of pressure because you don't have any points on the line, whether it's in the Clash or the 500, and it's about going out and trying to win and enjoying the moment.
You and I were in victory lane in 2010 when you won the Great American Race. And I don't think I've ever seen someone more impacted by the moment of winning that race. It was very emotional.
Well, it was emotional for me because that was a point in my career that I was leaving Roush, and you didn't even know if you're going to have a job the following year. And Chip, was grateful enough to give me a second chance at his place. And then for us to come out and win the Daytona 500, it was just, I don't know if anyone knows, but I didn't even know if I was going to race the whole year in 2010. We didn't have sponsorship for the whole year. McDonald's came on kind of right after that, which let us run the whole season. So, yeah, when you ask me those questions, you get flooded with a lot of thoughts immediately, and kind of where you've been and where you're going and what might happen now. So, it's super emotional, and it's a moment that I will never forget.
Hopefully you can close it out with one more.
That'd be great. It might drop, right? It might drop.
There you go. Guys.
Regan Smith is there, Michael Waltrip, and Ricky Bobby. Ricky Craven and Bobby Labonte. Larry Mack going to have a wealth of riches there to help you out in the studio.
Jamie McMurray might drop the mic, but he's going to be picking up a mic.
He better pick it up, yeah.
After that. And when we talk about Jamie McMurray, and he alluded to it there with that interview with Matt. If you think of some key moments, and we probably didn't know that he was driving for his career at that time, but think about it. Brickyard 400, Daytona 500. I think of when he got the first time behind the wheel of that 40 car, filling in for Sterling Marlin. He won that race. His timing was pretty darn good, and it's because he had a lot of talent behind the wheel to pull it off.
I think a lot of times I've seen this over and over again where a driver doesn't know what his future is. That's when that driver's at his best. I've seen drivers that their contract's up and they don't know if they're going to renew or not. I've seen them really do things that we didn't expect them to do and get good results.
Now he's trying to get comfortable there with a double sub strap. It's now a 6-point harness that these drivers use, and you get that lap belt cinched right around your pelvis. Get those two sub straps in place, then go to work on your shoulder harness, Hans device, and everything else getting settled.
A guy that's been doing a lot of work, Mike, is that 11 car, Denny Hamlin. He fell way behind the 3 cars in front of him there, way back. I thought he lost the draft. He chased them down, and remember, that's how he won the Daytona 500. He came from way back to pass a bunch of cars to win at the line. And I think that's what he's working on.
All right, a 12-car train getting ready to form up. For their case, I hope so.
It looks like he'd be above it.
Big pack, big time draft at Daytona. Down toward turn number 1. Here they all come.
Just saw about 8,200 on the tack there in that telemetry for a second. And they're running about 196 miles an hour. So they're definitely getting it on.
That's Kevin Harvick out front in the 4. Austin Dillon right behind him. Alex Bowman third, making his first laps of the day. Then Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman.
Certainly the biggest group that we've seen so far. And you see Denny Hamlin broke off from that other group of Toyotas, is right in the mix of this draft.
And look at the Penske cars. Counting the Wood Brothers 21, there with the 12, the 2, and the 22. Up and down. Paul Menard up top.
But I think a lot of these guys, Jeff, are running a lot of laps. The Mustang guys figure out what that car's going to do. You got a new crew chief. He's got a different format what you've had in the past. You got a different spotter. I think he's just trying to, you know, get as comfortable as you can here in these practice sessions.
Oh, Chase Elliott at the wall.
Whoa, no, here we go.
Kevin Harvick.
Chase Elliott, Ryan Newman, Denny Hamlin, and Kevin Harvick.
Guys, the thing about Denny Hamlin, he's the one Toyota driver that left his teammates. They went to the garage. He went out there and got in this big pack.
And he might have the most damage of any of these cars, other than maybe the 9 of Chase Elliott.
So the first thing that happens here is Chase Elliott's green number 9 gets caught in the middle and starts going backwards.
You can see the 10 of Almirola gets the inside.
21's got a run on the outside.
Yeah.
But here comes the 6, and that's going to try to close that hole up. The 9 tried to move up in front of the 6, and just no room.
Yeah, love to hear the spotter on that one with Eddie DeHunt, the spotter for the 9 of Chase Elliott, because that 6 was coming with a lot of speed.
I'm not sure the 4 ever hit anything. It looked like it was a roof flap.
Yeah, you can see Chase just comes up thinking that he could fill that hole, and that hole was not there.
Nope. I think Harvick.
I think he might have got tipped by Hamlin.
And you could see
turned, but we'll see.
You could see right there, Hamlin nosed in with the right front, heavy damage to the 11 FedEx Toyota.
Yeah, Newman's and Harvick's car look pretty undamaged.
I think so. And of course, all the, you know, Hamlin's teammates are saying, "Why did you stay out there?"
Boy, Logano just missed getting into Ryan Newman.
I know that looks minor. It looks like it just kissed the wall a little bit, but it tears those cars all to pieces. That nose is knocked all the way over the right front tire.
Let's go to the garage and Vince.
Well, you saw the significant damage on the 11 of Denny Hamlin, and Hamlin had commented that when he gets in the pack, the car gets loose. Now, granted, he was not the one that started that entire incident, but I think that's something that everybody's dealing with. When you get in the pack, the handling of those cars changes significantly. As Hamlin noted, it was mighty loose as he was in the pack, and you see the damage done to that 11.
You know, guys, one thing that's different from a year ago is these cars have a front pan under it that they can run now. Creates a lot more front downforce that can make the car looser in traffic.
4 cars in clash practice pile up off turn 2. Kevin Harvick continues to survey the damage on his number 4 Mustang before they bring it back to the garage area. You see he got off in the grass, and those front splitters do not like turf, not one little bit.
Yeah, he hit somebody in the rear end too.
And,
I think that.
And look at that hood buckle. That's just from the amount of air moving underneath that hood and buckling the hood. And that hood's all carbon fiber now, so you can't get the shape back in that hood. That'll definitely be a new hood. It's just whether or not. I think that's what he's trying to find out is this a backup car?
Yeah, you'll see him running the back of somebody. I don't know who it was.
You can see right there, he thinks about getting to the bottom, realizes that the 10's coming with a lot of momentum. Yeah, they didn't touch much. That left front fender of the 6 of Ryan Newman to the right rear of the 9 of Chase Elliott. Didn't take a lot.
He asked about the damage of on the 4 of Hamlin. Looked like he got into the back of Denny Hamlin.
He did.
Or the 4 of Harvick got into
him.
Hamlin.
He kind of bumped him.
Yeah, there just wasn't a hole there, was there?
Nope.
And look at Joey Logano just squeezed through there. Oh, and the 41 of Suarez. Right now, Denny Hamlin and that 11 team are kicking themselves for not staying with the plan.
So they're trying to figure out, do they want the wrecker or the rollback to get back to the garage? Teams can have tow straps on this car to just pull them on their four wheels, but apparently that's not an option here.
Wrecked the car.
Kevin Harvick, Ryan Newman still out there on the backstretch trying to work out how they're going to get those cars back to the garage with the least amount of damage or further damage to them. Meanwhile, other drivers involved are already back in the garage. Here's Vince.
And one of those is Chase Elliott, going to have to go to the backup car for the clash. And I know you're curious to see the replay on this, but what did it feel like for you in that situation?
Yeah, I don't really know. I know the Eric and I were trying to get up to speed, and he got to the bottom, and I thought, all right, well, I'll go to the bottom. Well, that hole closed up, so I was just going to kind of ride it out in the middle and fall to the back, and then, yeah, I guess the sixth. I don't know if I crowded him up or I kind of went up as he was coming down. Kind of hard to tell, but knew I got hit in the right rear and felt bad. If it was my fault, I apologize. Yeah, it looks like I crowded him, so certainly not a good way to start. Not a good way to start the week. Hopefully, we won't tear anything else up, and we'll get ready to go. For the race tomorrow.
In general, how was it in the pack? How was the cars handling?
Yeah, I mean, it's real similar to what it's been the past few times at the plate races. Just hate to tear stuff up. First practice of the week, so certainly feel bad, and we'll go to work, try to get things fixed, and get ready to race tomorrow, like I said, and try not to wreck anything else. So we'll go from there.
Thanks, Chase.
Alan Gustafson, I think that's Ron Malik with him looking things over there.
Yeah, I saw Ron Malik yesterday. He's planning to be here through the weekend, but not be here for the Daytona 500. Those of you that know that name, Ron Malik, longtime car chief with Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus on that 48 team.
So let's talk about why Kevin Harvick and Ryan Newman are still out there. I believe they've tried to give them a choice of wrecker or rollback to bring those cars back to the garage, Larry.
Well, it's almost pick your poison, but I would say the wrecker would do less damage. The irony of what we're seeing here, Mike, NASCAR gave teams an option in 2019 of having a small nylon tow strap installed in the center of the front bumper and the center of the rear bumper for situations just like this. I did not find any teams as of now that's opted to put that tow strap. This would have paid huge dividends for this 4-car and that 6-car right there. But yeah, the rollback, we saw what the grass did to the splitter of Denny Hamlin's 11 car. That rollback could do the same damage in Matt Yoakum's actually with Denny Hamlin.
And Denny Hamlin has left the infield care center. And much like a situation on I-77, just an innocent victim hit from behind.
Yeah, it's part of it. I think a couple cars were merging right there into some other cars, and someone's probably trying to use that as an opportunity to make a move. So really couldn't. I don't even know what started last I saw was the 6 was kind of crossing over my nose there, and I felt a tag from somebody behind us. So just part of it. This is what practice is for, is to kind of feel your car out and feel things you need to work on. And obviously the few laps I got to run right there in the pack, there's some things that some feedback that we need to adjust for our handling.
What was the biggest thing you took away that you guys need to work on?
Well, just working on drivability just a little bit. Everything seemed fine as far as the speed in the car, especially with the 4-car pack that we had. But just need to work a little bit, being able to have a car secure enough to make moves, but also have it to where you don't slow it up so much in the draft.
All right, thanks, Danny.
All right, thanks.
All drivers have been checked and released.
The 6 and the 4, that's a couple of Mustangs. May not have a lot of cars. They may want to take care of that, see if the least amount of damage possible.
Clash practice halted for a 4-car pileup coming out of turn number 2. Chase Elliott into Ryan Newman, and then, all right, we're going to listen to Chase Elliott's spotter, Eddie DeHunt, as this unfolded.
The 21's going to close here, bumping out. The bottom is real tight now. Mid, pre-mid. Still 3 mid. Oh, man, what happened? We wrecked right there.
Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick also crashing.
Just no question that Chase Elliott thought there was enough room to squeeze in there, and the 6 was already there, no room at all.
Yeah,
so
you heard
what
Chase
is
Elliott say, I crowded him.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 mid is you're in the middle, 3 wide.
Okay.
It's usually what you don't want to hear. And what I saw there was just, and Chase Elliott alluded to this, they were just getting up to speed. So he was not fully up to speed. And I think when he got 3 wide in that scenario, that's why those cars were coming with such momentum and such speed and gaining on him that quick. And in that scenario, you've just got to play it really safe and give a lot of room to the inside and the outside lane. We heard Chase Elliott say, I think I just crowded him. And you can see where the 6 of Ryan Newman, he came off the wall a little bit, but he should have had plenty of room to be able to do that.
Yeah, this is interesting here. These guys on the back straightaway, they're trying to get this 4-car, Kevin Harvick's, out of, it's sitting on the ground. They're trying to figure out how to get it out there without tearing it up any worse. Because I don't think that car's damaged too bad.
So they're going to get some help from the garage area to get those cars moved. There's an awful lot new in NASCAR this year, especially in Charlotte at NASCAR Race Hub.
This week, NASCAR Race Hub is back. On Monday, we're fresh up the track and breaking down the Clash from Daytona. And then it's the first radioactive of the season.
Done. Oh, my God.
Plus, you won't want to miss hearing from your favorite drivers on Media Day. That's all this week on NASCAR Race Hub. Weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern, only on FS1.
Now, Wednesday will be a special day on NASCAR Race Hub, a special edition live from Media Day, Wednesday from noon to 3 Eastern Time, and again at 6 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on over on that back straightaway. I'm just not sure what they're trying to do. Trying to figure out how to get this car out of here without tearing it up any worse, I guess.
And we've had a further look. The toe straps, which are mandatory in just about every other form of racing, mounted onto the cars and are optional here, might not do the front end of Kevin Harvick's car much good because that car is on the ground.
Yeah.
And pretty well dug into the grass there. So
now I'm hearing you see these tires on this flatbed. I think they're going to take a jack in tires because those tires are flat spotted and down. Yep. And even if they try to pull this car out of there, it's going to cause more damage. So they're even allowing them to, which I'm shocked at this, allowing them to put tires on the car to get these cars back.
This is totally unprecedented, but I agree with what DW said. I just think NASCAR knows that these teams are limited with their race cars right now. This is a special event, special circumstances, special practice session. I applaud NASCAR working with the teams in this situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you've got to remember, this is a 4-car team, and they've had to build a lot of race cars in the
This backup car that some of these teams are going to get out, was going to be the backup for their Daytona 500 car. They usually only bring 3 cars down here. So if you lose a car now and go to your backup car, now you've got to bring another car down here to be the backup for the Daytona 500.
Now you see the clock in the upper left of your screen. That's how much time is left in this practice session. There are 8 cars lined up on pit road waiting to go out on the track for practice. So once the 6 and the 4 are removed, we'll get back at it. Sounds like a good time for a break.
I'm all for it. Get a cup of coffee.
So we'll take one, and to show you why, we're going to ride along with Kevin Harvick. What's that line they used to paint on the side of the wreckers? You call, we haul? Well, here we go. 3 jacks, a bunch of wheels and tires, and 1 crewman from each team is in the lead pickup to get these cars out of turn 2. And let's hear from the crew chief of Kevin Harvick's car. Here's Vince.
You never know what you're going to see at Daytona with Rodney Childers. Explain to us what's going on out there and why you don't have your car back already.
Well, thankfully, NASCAR took into consideration these low ride heights at the speedways. You know, it's got the tail extension on the back and a lot of different things. And if you hook it to the front end and tow it back with a tow truck, it's going to tear the whole back end of it off. So I appreciate them letting us do this. We're going to put some tires on it and try to drive it back. It looks like the only thing really wrong with it is the hood messed up when it turned around backwards. So if we can get it back and it's not tore up too bad, we'll get a hood on it and ready to race.
And so you don't think that there's much significant damage to it?
No, I think it's okay. Kevin talked to us there for a minute, and he said it looked fine. We just got to get a hood on it and figure that part out and get it ready.
Thanks, Rodney.
Probably the same situation with Ryan Newman's car, because I didn't see Newman contact the outside wall. The car never made it as far as the inside
Yeah,
wall.
something he brought up is the ride height. I mean, these cars are already on the ground, and so they have flat tires. Now they're literally touching the ground.
I wanted Vince to ask Rodney if he gave one of those crew members that's going out there to change tires a Band-Aid for Kevin Harvick. It looked like when he was inspecting the car and pulled that hood up, I think he cut his finger a little bit.
To put his glove back on.
Yeah.
Now this is Kevin Harvick's Daytona 500 car. They run a different car in the Clash. And you talk about pants on the ground.
You can barely drive through the garage area with that car, let alone through the grass in the infield of this racetrack.
Guys, if you go back to the rear bumper of this Ford car, we talked about how low the car is. See this part right here? That's a bumper.
Else, I mean, with that groove and that bumper and all.
I was down in the garage area yesterday, Darrell, looking at this indention on the rear bumper of this new Mustang, and I'm going to be very curious to see what happens when a Chevy and a Ford lock bumpers, because the nose on that Camaro is very pointed, and we saw last year how Eric Almirola was hooked and spun by a Chevy at the end of this race.
Yeah. Right at the Chevy logo right there.
Chevy nose comes to kind of a point.
Yeah.
The back end on the Ford has the indent for the license plate, and then also over near the wheels. But what I'm wondering, Jeff, and we'll have to see it out on the racetrack, is whether the contact point from those other bumpers is, if we can go back to the rear bumper, whether the point of contact is in this area where it might catch, or might it be lower in this area where it'd be flat all the way across?
Yeah, I don't think it would be lower. If anything, Mike, it could be in this area up here. But boy, that's not much surface area to have a bumper.
No.
When you meet the other bumper, when you're trying to push that car on the final lap to win the Daytona 500 or win this Clash.
Yeah, I actually think they'll probably match up about just under that Busch sign, actually.
Now, Chase Elliott was the car that got into Ryan Newman and then into the wall, and it looks in the garage like they are trying to repair Elliott's car
it looked that
as
way.
well, and not go to a backup car. 17 minutes to go in this session. Here's why we're under the red flag. Upper right of your screen, the number 9, the green card, Chase Elliott. Trying to get in line behind Paul Menard, but Ryan Newman was closing fast.
And
Mike,
you can see the impact that 9 car made without the outside wall. I mean, it bounced up in the air a little bit. There's some pretty decent damage to that right side. I think they can fix the body. It's just whether or not any suspension damage in that right front or chassis damage.
Mike, this is practice. Haven't run the race yet. So if you could repair this car, I'm pretty sure that's what you'd want to do, because most likely this is practice, and when we get in a race, it might get worse.
I was going to say, most likely, this car is not going to come out of this race tomorrow in one piece.
No.
They don't need to get out another car.
There's a 6. He's rolling.
This car looks pretty decent. It basically just slid. Well, of course, we haven't seen the right side. It might have taken a little bit of right side damage, but other than those flat spotted tires and a little bit of damage to that nose, that's fixable from what I can see so far.
Oh, they'll fix that baby for sure.
Yeah, that 6 car, though, looks like the same issue as the 4. They're going to probably have to put a hood on that car.
All right, as soon as Kevin Harvick takes it back to the garage, we can reopen for practice. With new front wheels and tires installed, both Kevin Harvick and Ryan Newman have been able to drive their cars back to the garage area for repair. So safety vehicles, when they leave the scene, will reopen the track. Let's go back to last February. And the Daytona 500 last lap, Austin Dillon into the back of race leader Eric Almirola, who goes into the wall, and Dillon goes on to victory. That's what puts him in the clash this year. His Daytona 500 win 1 year ago. Vince Welch is with Austin Dillon.
Getting ready to get back in the car to continue clash practice. How did it feel to come back to Daytona?
Founded 1969 with Richard as the driver of the then number 3. And here's one of our newest Fox analysts, Jamie Mack, who will compete in the Clash and the Daytona 500 for Chip Ganassi Racing in that number 40.
And let me tell you, when it comes to drafting, pushing, shoving, being aggressive, That's about as aggressive as you're going to see, because he's been known to get up in there and mix it up.
I think he was feeling a little bit nervous with that delay, that he wasn't even going to get any laps on this number 40 car.
Hear those skirts dragging just a little bit, Mike. That they do that. They're lower than they're going to run them because they want to see how low they can get them, and then they'll trim them a teeny bit.
And you're looking there, top speed 182 miles an hour. He'll be up in the mid 190s or higher in the draft, so you know that car's going to travel even more.
Yeah. Yeah, 197, well, 196.7, pretty close to 197 miles an hour in the draft.
6 cars have come off pit road together.
Kurt Busch goes into turn 1. Look at the gain that he gets right there. Probably a little bit of a push from behind, but that draft, that just shows you how powerful it is. I think Joey Logano's waving this group by him. You see his hand out the window. He's going to go to the top.
Just look at the back of that car, though. I mean, that bumper is only inches off of the racetrack. It's so low in the back. So low everywhere, but the back of the car is just down.
And from that angle, Darrell, what I was looking at, you could just see that.
Joey Logano, the only Ford in the top 4 on the speed chart, ahead of the Chevrolets of Jimmy Johnson, Austin Dillon, and Chase Elliott. Fastest Toyota is Denny Hamlin, who is 8th quickest of the 20 drivers that will compete in the Clash. And we're now told that Chase Elliott, after that crash in the back straightaway, will go to a backup car for tomorrow's Clash.
Him and a 41. They're all different arrangements.
As we went to break, Daniel Suarez was headed for pit road, carrying a pretty good bit of speed. Here's the shot we were on going to break. Jeff, tell us what's happening here.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to get a nice practice in to downshift and brake as you come to pit road. Pretty late entrance here. And listen real quick. Right there, you heard a slight lockup of a tire, and I think he went to react to that lockup of the tire, and when he went into third gear to downshift, he had no RPM, no rev match, and it instantly started wheel hopping.
And here's his team radio.
So I obviously know exactly what happened, but when he got ready to brake, he was a lot further to the left that time, so I don't know if he got into some dust, some oil dry that's left over, or got on the painted line, but something was different there when he took off.
I think he was messing with the brakes, said that was too much rear.
I said that, I guess so.
That was not a wheel hop from braking, in my opinion. It was as soon as he went to third gear, and he just didn't rev the engine up in that neutral gate enough to get the RPMs up to match the speed of the rear tires when he went to third gear.
You know why he didn't do all that? Because he was going way too fast.
Way too fast, yeah. He was going pretty fast.
He was exceeding the speed limit.
No harm done other than flat spotting the tires. No contact with the wall or anything. One driver who has had an interesting practice session is Kevin Harvick. Here's Matt.
Now, Mike, if I back
and went to the left and then just blew the hood off, and as it slid, when the motor died, I'm like, oh man, I hope Newman doesn't come back up here. But the right front tire was flat and dug into the mud, and they're probably mad, but I didn't want them to haul the car back because they would have had to lifted it up and tore the whole back of the car off and caused a lot of unnecessary work for the guys. So I appreciate them helping us out. It saved us about $300,000.
Now, I will say this, you're an old school racer. You always worked on all your stuff growing up all through the years. You cut your hand trying to survey the damage. All good there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just a little cut.
Barely even a Band-Aid needed. He's good to go.
What I heard out of that was Stuart Haas obviously is running a little bit too much rear brake, because we heard from Daniel Suarez, they said that he had a little bit too much rear brake. We heard Kevin Harvick talk about a little bit of wheel hop when he went to the brake. So you try to get as much rear brake in it as possible, because when you come onto pit road at that high rate of speed like we saw Daniel Suarez do, you get on that front splitter and sometimes you'll start to lock up the front tire, so you want to maintain control. But if you get too much to the rear, then you're going to start wheel hopping even at speed on the back straightaway.
But I'm going to applaud NASCAR for working with Kevin Harvick and Ryan Newman so that those cars could be rolled away without damage. Now, if this was final practice for a points race, or if it was in a points race, this probably would not happen. But this is an exhibition race. It is the start of Speed Weeks. Good for everybody for this result.
Saved them $300,000, he said.
Yeah. And then this for Daniel Suarez. Watch the downshift. And around he goes. Welcome back to Daytona. Watching Kurt Busch in the garage area. 5 minutes to go in this practice session, and let's get another follow-up on that 4-car incident off turn 2. Here's Matt.
Mike, a great lobbying effort by both Harvick and Newman to get NASCAR to allow them to change the tires, as we've well documented, to get those cars back so they wouldn't have that much damage. But you were riding along, and when you saw the 9 starting to inch up, were you going, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if he was trying to start a block and obviously tried to finish a block, but either way, it was he kind of filled a hole that really wasn't there, and you know, that started the mess, and yeah, that wasn't there, and you know, the end result was that. So it was unfortunate for our Wyndham Rewards Ford, and I commend NASCAR for allowing us to go back and change the tires, because there really wasn't that much wrong with it. If we'd have towed them back or flatbedded them back, they would have been tore up a lot worse. So it took a little bit of political effort, but we got it handled.
I think they should run for office.
No.
Vince.
The biggest sigh of relief so far today belongs to Daniel Suarez. What happened coming to pit road there?
Well, we're pretty much done. The car is fast. Everyone in Storehouse Racing has done an incredible job. I just lost the back, so I'm just...
When you're spinning, what's going through your mind right there?
When I'm spinning, I'm just trying to look to a wall to try to turn the wheel and try to stay away from the wall. I don't care about tires, I don't care about anything, I'm just trying to stay away from the wall. And if you look to the onboard camera, I have a perfect view. I was just trying to keep the car from going to the inside wall. I don't know if I got lucky or I was pretty good.
Oh, we're going to call it good. It's nice to be good and lucky, and Daniel Suarez a little bit of both so far.
Boy, nice to see him with a smile on his face. Last year, frustrating. His final year there at Joe Gibbs Racing, and now a fresh start at Stuart Haas with that Ford. And despite the spin, smile on his face, and a laugh in his description of just losing the rear end, trying to get onto pit road as fast as he can.
6 quick on the time and scoring, so the car is obviously fast, like he said.
Here is the backup car for Chase Elliott. Apparently too much damage after he got into the left front of Ryan Newman and then into the wall in the back straightaway coming off turn number 2. So this will be his car for the clash tomorrow. 2 minutes to go in this session. They won't get it out on track.
I think if you have a backup car and you're a Chevy or a Toyota, I mean, those are cars that they've had, you'd roll out a backup car.
Mike, I noticed when they unloaded that backup car of Denny Hamlin out of that hauler, there was another FedEx 11 car in that hauler as well. So you don't think these guys have a busy off season between Homestead and Daytona? It's nonstop.
Now Kevin Harvick's car, they are still trying to make repair on that number 4 and on Ryan Newman's number 6, so as not to have to go to a backup car.
I know inspection's a lot tougher than it used to be, for sure, but when we wrecked a car at the track, it seemed like we could always make it a little bit better.
If you repaired it at the track?
If we repaired it at the track. What do you expect, man? I've been in a wreck.
You just had to have the right amount of damage.
That's right.
In the right area.
Yeah, that's been known to happen.
That's right.
I always loved it when, let's say, for example, you've got Kevin Harvick's got to put a hood on that car, and they're back there grinding on the right rear.
All right, well, what do we make of this lineup from this practice? Joey Logano's Ford fastest, then the 3 Chevrolets, then 3 Fords. Denny Hamlin back in 8th is the quickest Toyota.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think Logano once again proves that, and I think it'll bear out over the next 10 days, that he is one of the best restrictor plate racers out there. And I think it also proves that Mustang must be pretty darn good.
And one of the most aggressive. I mean, he was showing some very aggressive moves, which tells me he has confidence. He's got a fast race car, and he wants to know exactly what he can do in the clash tomorrow.
And a guy that didn't win a race last year, the 48 car second, a guy our defending Daytona 500 champion third, LA to 1-3 races, Harvick. I mean, you got a pretty strong lineup right there.
Strong lineup on the right side of your screen, too. We'll be back with Daytona 500 qualifying practice, which is also the practice for the duel. That comes up at 1 o'clock and again at